All right, episode 36, Dynasty Trades in 5. I am Clay.
I am Shane is the worst.
I am Scott. Another one in the books. This one's going to be good. Let's go.
Trevor Lawrence, the golden boy. Scott, you're up. What do you think about old T-Law?
Well, so we thought he's going to be generational, break fantasy right away. I think he jumped up into quarterback 7 range before the season started. That was his peak. And it's been underwhelming. I mean, I think this is a classic case of the person that has him was drafting him so high that now there's not a lot of trades for Trevor Lawrence because I haven't seen really anybody. A lot of people are down on him, but I haven't seen anybody. He sucks. He's going to be terrible. He's the next Sam Darnold. He'll be out of the league in 5 years. If anything, it's the opposite. It's every excuse in the book for him the other way. Basically, he's been failed by his system, his coach, his weapons, the team, whatever it might be. He hasn't been as bad as like his fantasy numbers say. He's bottom 3 in the league. I was posting this earlier in our Patreon chat. He's bottom 3 in the league in on-target throws, bottom 3 in the league in catchable targets. So like he's not doing his receivers or his weapons any favor. But at the same time, like he's top 12 in the league in terms of his ADOT. So I mean, he's not dinking and dunking. So he's actually taking shots down the field, and he really doesn't have that good of weapons. I think DJ Chark being lost in that offense really was like a elite. I don't want to say an elite receiver, but a difference maker down the field that's really hurt him. I mean, he's working with a bunch of gadget players and an aging Marvin Jones at this point. I mean, there's a reason it was like the offense was funneling through Dan Arnold. I mean, that's probably not a good offense if you're looking for fantasy production. So, I mean, he's still a top 10 dynasty QB. I mean, it's hard to put him anywhere outside of that. Like, we'll probably get into some debates, but it's like, okay, Russell Wilson, Jalen Hurts, Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford. Like, you're not super confident taking these guys over him. So it's just maybe somebody sells, but we'll talk through some deals. It's just hard to find deals to sell because you can't give up on a guy that quick.
Yeah, I think in our startup that we just finished, he went 107 right before Jonathan Taylor. It was interesting. He was the last QB before JT went. But Anyway, go ahead, Shane. What do you think?
Yeah, we were talking off air. I have a lot of Trevor Lawrence in a lot of leagues. And if someone were to come to me and go, I'll give you Joe Burrow, I'd be like, sold, American dollars. But that's the thing. It's got to be someone in that range that was already kind of in that range anyway, right? Top 10 quarterback. There's really no impetus for anyone to give me a top 10 quarterback for Trevor Lawrence right now. What Scott's getting, like the weapons are not good there. Losing Chark was probably pretty rough. But what's going to improve next year? I mean, sure, they'll get a wide receiver, right? But Urban Meyer's probably not going to get fired, is he? Like they're letting him do what he's doing this year, like cheat on his wife on camera and then, fly home without the team and, get blown out after bye weeks. So clearly Shad Khan's going to let him play out most of this contract, I would think. So if Urban Meyer's back there next year, how do you feel better about Trevor Lawrence?
So what would you take, Mac Jones and a late 2022 first or Trevor Lawrence?
Oh, no, I'm still holding on Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, I'd still take Lawrence there. But
what about 105 and Mac Jones or Trevor Lawrence?
This draft, 2022?
Yeah.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence still.
See, that's at least high enough where I would be willing to consider the pick. It's the 105. It's not the 110, 111, 112. I mean, I think I'm quote unquote, I'm going to have some leverage with that pick. That could be the wide receiver 1 or the RB1. So I think that holds enough where maybe I don't want to pick the player, but I think that holds enough power where maybe I can be a little more creative with the value I'm getting in the deal.
So if you tear down from T-Law, what is the furthest you'd be willing to tee down amongst quarterbacks? Would you go as far down as, Kirk Cousins plus stuff? Or would you try to stick around like the Russell Wilson kind of level tier and not go further than that?
Well, first of all, Russell Wilson isn't better than Kirk Cousins. So those two are in the same tier to me. That's the problem. I won't tear down. Basically, I'm stuck with Trevor Lawrence, it looks like, and I don't know if it's because of what I paid for him, the acquisition cost. I'd like to think it's not that, but it's also he was so good in college. I can't believe that this is who he is in the pros.
I think some encouraging things on Lawrence, what I talked about earlier. He's still at like 35.8 pass attempts a game. So it's not like they're afraid to let him throw. His rushing share is almost 25%. Now, part of that is because he just hasn't passed for a lot of fantasy points. I mean, his passing production sucks. So, yeah, his 200 yards rushing and a couple touchdowns is going to look good relative to his passing numbers. But those are at least things you can point out to say, okay, if the peripheral stuff around him gets better, then he still has the ceiling that you thought he was going to have. I don't know. I'm stuck with him because he's still a top 10 quarterback value-wise. So there, like Shane said, there really isn't any pivoting. But I think if you pivot down, if you can get the leverage and you can get, like you said, that deal where you get Mac in a 104, 105, like I think that's a fair swap if you want to get out of the Lawrence business. T-Law in a late 2022 first, or